All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on how to stay connected with your farm during uncertain times. My name is Michael, and I'm on the marketing team here at Virtuance. And today we've invited Chris Burnley and Ginny Kane from Corefact to discuss how the changes we've all been experiencing can create opportunities and what marketing strategies you can adopt right now to put yourself in a position to take market share away from the competition. So just a little bit about Corefact and Virtuance. We've been admirers of each other's work for quite some time, as we both believe in providing real estate professionals with high quality marketing that's effective and easy to use. Corefact provides professional direct mail and print marketing solutions for thousands of agents nationwide. And I'm excited for Ginny and Chris to share their insights on how you can improve your marketing strategy. So with that, I'll pass it on to Ginny and Chris. Ginny?
Thanks, Michael. I'm Ginny Kane, and I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Corefact, and we're excited to be with you guys today. I was talking to Michael a few weeks ago as we were planning the webinar, and we shared similar stories about how both of our companies pivoted very quickly to provide new products and services for the agents that during the pandemic. And what started it was we got calls from agents saying, like in early March, saying, I want to keep marketing, but I'm not sure what to send or if it's even appropriate to send right now. So we kicked into action and started creating a complete marketing catalog of products for each stage of the pandemic. And Chris, our CEO and founder, will do a show and tell of those products and explain the psychology behind them, as well as giving you some marketing strategies to use now. Michael and I will both be monitoring the question box. So if you have a question, you can type it in as you think about it. Go ahead and do that, and then we'll do like a 15 to 20 minute Q&A after the webinar. So write your questions in. So without further ado, joining us from a basement bunker in an undisclosed location. Not really, he's in Hayward, California. Take it away, Chris.
All right, well, thank you, Michael, and thank you, Ginny, for that introduction. Hello, everybody. I'm Chris Burnley, CEO of Corefact. Before I get started, maybe I'll give you a quick info on Corefact and who we are. So I started Corefact about 15 years ago, and the goal was to build technology and print solutions for the real estate and mortgage industry. And we've been doing that. We've been, a Fortune 5000 company for, I think, 5 years in a row, and a fastest growing company in the Bay Area for, like 7 or 8 years in a row now. With probably, I think we have 230,000 agents that have signed up in our system. So, we work with a lot of real estate agents. Everybody here at Corefact has a fairly strong real estate background. I grew up in the business with my family. My mom, my dad, and my stepmother were all real estate agents. So I had experience farming from essentially the age of about 9 years old, helping them do their business. And so with that, I'll get into the presentation. So, this presentation is called Staying Connected with Your Farm During Uncertain Times. And so those of you that do direct mail will probably have a good understanding of some of the strategies there. But for those that don't, I'll try to explain a little bit. But first, let's talk about, kind of what's happening. So back in Q4 of last year here at Corefact, we spent a ton of time planning out what our 2020 was going to be. We built a marketing plan, a business plan. We were anticipating that 2020 was going to be the greatest year ever. And we're expecting, significant growth and everything else. And so we started off executing that plan, and then, February hits and boom, we get this coronavirus thing. I'm not going to talk much about it, but effectively it felt like we got punched in the mouth. And so, as Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and sometimes it kind of hurts. So the initial reaction was, most of our clients and even some in the company were in a state of shock, and we felt like we needed to regroup and make some adjustments. We need to do them really quickly. So what's our plan B? And as Ginny alluded to, we sat down, and normally we have a weekly management meeting, but we moved to a daily meeting. And what we wanted to do was to devise a plan and a strategy on how to market during these times. Now, we've been around a while, and we remember back to 2008, 2009, during the mortgage meltdown, and kind of how the market reacted and how it went through different phases, and how some agents were just able to dominate and take market share, and others kind of sat back or even got out of the business. And we thought about that and we said, okay, well, what's that going to look like in this particular situation, and what kind of strategies do we need to employ to help our clients be ultra successful? And that's what we did. Okay. All right. So what we did, we devised a very simple 4-phase approach to this COVID-19 situation. And I'll just go through those quickly, and then I'll show you some examples and talk a little bit about why direct mail is very relevant today. So phase 1 was unity. You know, this was the kind of the late January, early middle February, where we're still in shock. We're thinking about, you know, what does this mean? How are we going to react? You know, and the sentiment out there was, we're all in this together. And while we have, you know, thousands of people who are on automated marketing campaigns with us, a lot of them had their plans already set for 2020. It's like, gosh, you know, the messages about how successful I am, and you know, here are all my listings, and the you know, you need to sell now and all that. Maybe we need to tone that down a bit and devise some messaging more about unity. So we switched out most of our campaign clients into these 4 phases, and the messages flowed from there. And the thing is, you know, when people are under stress and duress, oftentimes, you know, we don't necessarily want to make it all about me. We want to make it more about them and us, and how we can collaborate together. And so that was the unity phase. And most areas have now moved into either phase 2 or phase 3. Now, phase 2 was reality. It's okay, this has occurred. We're now sheltering in place. We have to practice social distancing, so on and so forth. And then we've put some of our dreams on hold. So maybe we're holding back on that that listing. We're gonna delay our listing a bit. We're gonna not necessarily prep the home as much as we thought we were, and so on and so forth. And so there's a number of things that we're kind of working out in that phase. We get to phase 3, and it's like, gosh, you know, this is going on a little while, and all those dreams, the aspirations, all the things that we really wanted to do in life that, you know, people need to live, we start thinking about them again, and we start planning again. And this is the time where, you know, agents can really get involved and help shepherd people through this process. Let them know that, you know, I'm a professional, I have a way to do it, and I have a way to do it safely. And so in phase 3, and really towards the end of phase 2, depending on where you're at, it's really about gearing up that messaging to get people to be able to move forward and make that change. And that's where we're at now. And then as we roll out of phase 3 in some areas, depending on where you are in the United States, we go into what we call the new normal. Now, this new normal phase is not what it was 6 months ago, but rather it'll be similar with a number of changes. So obviously the way we do open houses, show properties, prepare properties, all of that has changed. And arguably what we've seen occur over the last probably 10 weeks or so is a higher degree of integration with technology. Now here at Corefact, doing direct mail and web-related products, social media stuff, you know, we've often integrated these technologies into our products already, and I'm going to show you some examples of that. But it's becoming ever so more important as people are more reluctant to go out and see things. And then remember, particularly with direct mail and other types of marketing, and even open houses, you know, oftentimes you're not marketing to the buyer. What you're doing is you're marketing actually to your next seller. So you're looking for that next listing, in the types of work that you do, in the way you represent that home is the best testimonial you could ever have in terms of what it would mean for that next seller. And I think that's one of the great synergies you see when you look like a company like Corefact and Virtuance. Virtuance gives you that kind of professionalism on the photography, the 3D renderings of the homes, things like that, even the staging. And Corefact takes that kind of, best of breed, high quality photography and puts it into marketing, so it allows you to have a broader way of distributing that information. And I think, we all know that our sellers, the buyers, all react to that, and it either, creates, increases the number of offers we get, or it increases our opportunity for our next listing. So, there's no shortage of things we can do to further integrate that kind of technology. All right, so I'll move into a couple of these examples. But first, I thought maybe let me just, for those of you maybe haven't done direct mail, I'll tell you a little bit about why it's important and how it compares to some of the other types of marketing. And if you look at, we'll just use email or social media are pretty much the same as an example. The challenge, let's say with email, is that there's just huge saturation. I think if all of you look back over the last, say, 10 weeks or so, and you think about your inbox, you're probably receiving 50, 100, 200, 300 emails a day, depending on how connected in you are. And you get to the point where you don't even look at email anymore. You just sit there and you're clicking archive, 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 or you just, hold down that shift key and select entire swaths and hit the delete button. I know I do it every single day. And for some reason, I just don't have the patience to go over every single email. So I'm effectively cherry picking only the most important ones and letting the rest of them kind of scroll down the screen. Oftentimes we find that a lot of the email that we get is just junk mail. It's very ineffective. It's not personalized at all. It doesn't have any relevance to me. It's an advertisement for somebody. And as consumers become more and more aware of all this stuff, they're unsubscribing and clicking spam and other types of mechanisms they have to cope with the overwhelming onslaught of email. And I think if you think, social media as a similar mechanism, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, when you think about your wall and how it just scrolls by and how many messages there are in any given day, it's very hard to actually keep up. So you're really trying to cherry pick and look just for those key individuals that you have relationships with. And then because of all this, there's a huge competition for your business. It's a free mechanism. So everybody's doing it and you're getting very few eyeballs. So let's contrast that with direct mail. So direct mail has far less saturation. So imagine, let's think back to this week and you went out to your mailbox probably every day and you pick up your mail, and maybe there are 10, at most maybe 20 pieces of mail in there. And what do? You fan through them, right? You get those letters and you're looking at them, and maybe you have some postcards. And the nice thing about a postcard is you cannot unsee the image. It's right there in your face. It's something that you see. It's something that you feel. It has texture. It has weight, and it can be very personalized. And as we shelter in place in many areas still, it's an experience. The U.S. Postal Service calls it the mail moment. They define it as the moment people pick up their mail and the joy often that they have in that. They're not just bills, but things of personal natures, letters, cards from family, and so on and so forth. And there's very little competition in your mailbox. So instead of 300 emails or 4,000 things coming across your wall, you have 6 things to look at. And if it's interesting enough, you can bring it in. And so when it comes to direct mail and having calls to action, if we can create a compelling call to action, it's a great way to create a connection with somebody. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. All right. And so first, maybe I'll talk a little bit about some of those phases and some postcards that we've designed there. And I'm going to jump past phase 1, the unity phase, where I think most of us are through. In phase 1, a lot of the postcards were really about, things of unity and so on. But when we moved into phase 2, in the sheltering place phase, we wanted to still be able to showcase some of our listings and other accomplishments, but we wanted to do it in a fun and friendly way. And so here's an example of a postcard we did that has a word game on it. And so you can imagine picking this out of your mailbox, and you say, oh gosh, that home right down the street just sold, or it's for sale. They're asking $1 million. I wonder what ours is worth. But also there's something for me to do with it. So I can bring it in, give it either to myself or the kids. They can do the word puzzle and so on. We had a number of different messages in this phase 2 around everything from flattening the curve to real estate and so on. One thing that became apparent very early was that people started to worry about their equity positions in their home. So, the stock market took a pretty good dive, and there were times where we're down 25, 30%. And you can imagine that impacted many people's 401ks, IRAs, other investments. And we started getting calls right away with people asking, gosh, I'm 60 years old and I was planning on retiring in 5 years. And the majority of my retirement is actually locked up in this home. And, what does that mean? And so all of a sudden, our market update and what I'm going to show you next is our home estimate cards became increasingly important. So here's an example of a market update card I thought I'd show you, which is, has a great message: together we can beat this. It gives a recent snapshot of what's occurring in the marketplace for 123 Main Street or whatever home it's going to. Now, this is what we call a variable data postcard. And some companies will do variable data. They'll put somebody's name on it, but we go way beyond that. So imagine you're sending this to your sphere of influence, which might be your friends, family. They could be all over the place. They could be local. They could be in different states. But that 123 Main Street in Colorado or Denver, we're going to pull the most recent sales around that home and rank them based on the similarity to the subject property, and have an automated market update. So that's a really cool feature. Something else that's part of this particular postcard says, get a free neighborhood sales report and track your home value here. Go to realestatehomeprice.com, enter a code key, and it'll give you a free home estimate. I'll show you that in a second. Now, this is really cool because this type of card, not only does it have a great message for the user, it gives them something of value. It's not just about us, the real estate agents. It's also something of value for them. And I'll show you one more card here, which is what we call our map card. This is visually really cool because people are going to recognize it right away. This map is not just some random map. That pin right there is actually their home. They're going to see their home on the map, and they're going to see all the recent sales around them. And we can scale this map in and out based on how many sales in the area there are. And in this time, we're inviting them to go to Real Estate Home Price, or you can do this on your website too by plugging in a widget and get a free home estimate. I'll show you that real quickly, how it works and then why it's important. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my browser here, and I'm going to go to Real Estate Home Price. Now, if we go back to that card here, you'll see that there's this code key here. And what it's asking the recipient to do is type that into their browser or into the form on that page. And so I'm just going to type in an example code key here. And what happens is it builds an estimate of value for that individual home. Now, it would be branded with your photo, your logo, the color scheme could match your brokerage, and so on and so forth. There are a number of ways for them to contact you. They can even get home value alerts, which basically creates a drip email system that notifies them when things sell in the neighborhood, so they can see how the value of their home might be changing over time. Now, one of the things agents often ask us is they say, well, gosh, how do you value the home? And what we say is a computer really doesn't do a great job of evaluating homes. We've all seen the issues with Zillow and other companies. So what we often do is we provide a estimate range for the home. So in this case, this home happens to be worth somewhere between 2.53 million and 2.74 million. And it's based on particular comparable sales in the neighborhood, which I can adjust. Look, everything's live, and I can even change details about the property, how many bedrooms, baths, square feet, and adjust that in case the county assessor data is wrong. But what's really interesting about this is what's going on behind the scenes. What we're doing is we're measuring all these interactions that are occurring on this particular page, and those are flowing back to Corefact, right? So while I'm doing this as the homeowner from the postcard, you're getting notified as the agent of what's occurring in your account. So you can see that I have in my Corefact account here, I have a contacts list, and I can see what kind of engagement I'm receiving from my different postcards. And you can see here on that particular home, the lead was captured 1 minute ago. We've got 4.5 stars, which are determined by the kinds of activities they do on that particular page. And it creates a clear path for me to follow up. So whereas in the past, when you used to send out, say, 500 postcards or 100 postcards, whatever it is, and you were sitting there waiting for just the phone call, here's a way you can actually bring them online, start interacting, get them into a drip email program, and start communicating with them digitally as well as physically through mail. So great innovation and really cool feature. And I'm sure some people will have some questions on that as we go down the path here towards the end. Okay, so that was phase 3 recovery, and we had a bunch of different cards around that particular phase. And as we move into phase 4 and more people are using these now, it's really getting back to the listing business, right? More homeowners are putting their properties back on the market. Some never stopped, but some of them had that intrepidation, and now we're getting back to it. And the question is, what tools can we do to effectively draw more eyeballs, more homeowners, more neighbors that maybe didn't make it to the open house into our realm so that we can follow up with them? So here's a cool card. This one is probably a little overdone in this particular case, but it really showcases the example. It's a just listed card that is focused on the virtual open house. And this card can be plugged right into the Virtuance single property website product, so that if I have a telephone, and everybody has one, a smartphone, either iPhone like I have, or an Android phone, I just open up my camera app. I pointed at that QR code right there, and boom, it takes me right into a virtual property website, right? And here's an example of Virtuance's virtual property website for 5430 Serenity Book Drive in Las Vegas. Beautiful website, great glamour shot of the home, followed by a nice description, showcasing all the amenities, gallery of all the different photos that were professionally taken, all the amenities on the map, and importantly, a way to connect the agent and the home and the prospective buyer to help transact. So what's really cool about that is we took a traditional postcard, we plugged it into a Virtuance virtual listing, we're able to track that activity, and we're able to get somebody from their phone directly into that virtual open house in a matter of seconds. And so for those neighbors that no longer are venturing out to the open house, gosh, now they're able to do that open house digitally, and we're able to actually have almost like a virtual guest book and see what's going on. Really cool stuff, right? All right. So here's another example of a similar type of postcard. Again, the virtual open house plugged in right there. Here's one that combines both a QR code plus the home estimate feature that I showed you before with a map. Yes, the concept is don't let that equity slip away. And we've actually seen a number of situations where some of our clients have gotten listings from people who have decided that I can work from home now. I don't need to be here in Silicon Valley as an example, and I'm going to move to Arizona or Florida or something. and they've put their homes on the market. So there's a lot of different life-changing events that are occurring, and people are realizing that you know, they want more out of life, and so they're making decisions about what to do next. And I think as agents and brokers, you know, if we are, you know, of the servant leader mindset, we can help them do that. Okay. All right. So as we rolled into the direct mail postcards, and I'll come back to that a little bit later, I'll talk also about showing open houses. And we think as the market changes and has changed, that the days of just basically opening up a house and having, you know, 13, 14 different families running through all at the same time is over, at least for the foreseeable future. And it behooves us on behalf of our clients, both from a liability standpoint as well as a best practice, is to manage that interaction of people coming in and out of the house and showing it, both for the safety of the public that's coming in, but also for the safety of our homeowners who may actually still be residing in the residence. And so one of the things we've done is we put together a number, we call it a home showing kit. And the idea being that we can have, this is a wall graphic, which is a sign giving some instructions on what to do in the house, floor graphics that can be placed throughout the home, and I'll show you some examples of those, all in different styles. So here's an example of one of those signs that might be on the door, and it says, welcome, you know, here are the house rules. If you're feeling sick, don't come in, all right? Practice social distancing, da, 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 da. You can customize this all on Corefact.com, and it is on a repositionable vinyl, so you can plug it on the door, you can put it on a window, it just peels on and off, doesn't leave any residue, doesn't damage the material that it's applied to. And then for our floor graphics, here's an example of a floor graphic that would go on the floor. The important thing about floor graphics is that they are UL certified for slip resistance, and you do not want to just put a sticker down there, because if it's raining, depending on where you are, if it gets wet and somebody slips, that can be a liability. So you're going to want to make sure that your floor graphics are certified to be slip resistant, and all of ours are. This is an example where we may have a queue going on outside, and it says, please wait, you'll be next. But one of the coolest features about this is that QR code again, right? Get that phone back out, and while they're waiting to have their turn at seeing viewing this home, they can go ahead and scan it and get that virtual tour. Now, even while they're in the house, you could have one of these, you know, in the hallway somewhere or in the kitchen. You could showcase a particular feature or a 3D video that Virtuance has put together, and we can scan that and get to that right away. It's a great way to, again, bring that person from the physical location into your digital world and start being able to actually track that activity, right? Wouldn't it be cool? They're in the house. They haven't, you know, they just kind of stumbled by, but now all of a sudden they're looking at your 3D Virtuance virtual tour, and you're able to get them in your database, and now you're emailing them and maybe showing them other listings, or maybe they're the neighbor and now you're listing their home. This is the kind of cool stuff. And it sounds rather simple, and it is, but it's those little tiny things that really make the difference. And we believe, and that's what, you know, as when we've been sitting in this war room type mode for the last 11 weeks, how do we extract that extra 1%, that extra 2% that's going to put us above our competition, right? Okay. Another example, this is what we call a property flyer sign. I've got one behind me. I'll pull it out for those of you who can see it's basically a plastic sign. These are really popular in the Pacific Northwest where it rains a lot, and they actually are meant to attach to the signpost, and we provide a kit to that. But you know, so you know, if you have a flyer box out there, you run out of flyers. Well, this particular property flyer sign never runs out. It's permanently attached until you're done with the listing, and they're like $20. They're dirt cheap. But we've also been able to put an easel back on it so that you can actually put it within the home itself. These are some examples of floor stickers or floor graphics that we've put in. You can see here You can put it in various places in the room, have different types of messaging on them. They can be anything from, this is an 8-inch round, to something, like a 10-inch, 10 by 10 square, and we have all kinds of different shapes and sizes. But great stuff. They're good to either showcase features of the home or to have people understand how they might need to social distance. Now, Virtuance does something called virtual staging, and I think this is absolutely amazing, and I want to talk about it just for a quick second here. So imagine we have this listing right here, and it's a beautiful property to begin with, right? We've got, lovely hardwood floors, it's painted, recessed lighting. It looks like there's, the photography has, HDR effect to it. It's beautiful, right? But how about compared to this? All of a sudden, we've put furniture, we've put paintings on the walls, and all of a sudden, it feels like a home, right? This is very bare. It's hard for some people to imagine what's going on, but all of a sudden, we plug furniture into it, and gosh, this home, I love it. I want to be here, right? So with the postcard, we can bring them into that digital world. But now let's say we're physically at that property and we're looking at it, right? And maybe, some cities, some areas aren't allowing staging. This was the case in San Francisco, not just a couple of weeks ago. We were doing poster boards for homes with virtual staging in it, specifically because of this. So we put together a product, it's just basically a poster board where if you have a property like that and you haven't actually physically staged it, you can use Virtuance to virtually stage it. And then we could put a poster board up in that room to showcase what it could look like. And you'd be amazed at the kind of feedback we have received on these. It allows people to, imagine what it could be like without having it physically done that way. I think it's just a killer product. And I don't see why everybody wouldn't do this if they have a home that could be improved through virtual staging. Okay. Now, this has nothing to do with direct mail or anything. It's just something that we've been doing. I thought I'd share with you. It's kind of fun. It's in our back to business category, which is when this all started, Corefact, we're a manufacturing company, and we started manufacturing face shields. We ordered, I think, up stock to do, 250,000 of these, and we've been donating many of them to various hospitals and other folks in need. And in some cases, small businesses have bought these, or agents have even bought them from us and donated them to small businesses, hospitals, and so on. And then we transitioned, we have now added what we call wall shields, which are shields that protect different areas where businesses that need to get back into business, maybe it's a brokerage and they have a reception area and they need a wall shield in order to meet some city ordinance or something. And we've been doing this for nail salons, everything, not just real estate. It's been pretty cool. So I thought I'd share that with you. But as we get back to the real estate side, and we talk a little bit about marketing tips. Now, throughout this whole pandemic, in the last probably almost 11 weeks now, we've been on the phone every day. We get hundreds of customer service calls every day, and we're talking to agents and trying to figure out what's going on. And one of the things that we did a survey to find out, how many of the agents have actually updated their marketing, and in particular the website. And when I say website, it could be your IDX or standard website, but it also could be your profile on Zillow, Realtor.com, and so on and so forth with your brokerage, whatever it may be. And we found that almost only 10% have actually put anything new on there. And we believe this is a huge missed opportunity. I mean, really at this time, you really need to let people know that you're practicing, social distancing, but you have a strategy for them to list their homes. And here's some of the ways you're doing it, A, B, C, and D, some of the things I just talked about. Because like I said, we're primarily in the phase 3 recovery now, moving to the new normal. Maybe we'll move backwards to phase two, but it's very relevant now. What we're finding is that because brand loyalty is up for grabs right now, when people are under duress or they're under stress, they're often willing to make a change. So let's say you were farming a neighborhood or you want to farm a neighborhood, and there was another top producing agent there, and that top producing agent has been taking a lot of that market share over the years. Well, if they don't have the right messaging and you come along and you do, then, that market share is up for grabs. The past performance does not necessarily predict how well they're going to do in the future. People are looking for somebody that has solutions that can deal with this particular situation and that can get them the most money for their property in the least amount of time. And by utilizing different strategies like we've talked about, you can do so. So we believe this is a time for the agent that really wants to take market share, they can do it. And so instead of slowing down your marketing and trying to conserve during this time, find the right budget to actually go after it and grow that market share. There aren't that many opportunities like this. 2008, 2009, the agents that went after the REO market did phenomenally well. They were listing, dozens of properties, sometimes even dozens a month for some of them. And we see this as a very similar type of opportunity. We believe, and what we're hearing is that, people are coming out of the shelters now, and that properties are coming back on the market. We have a super tight inventory, a low inventory going on right now, and we're anticipating some of that's going to open up. So while you're doing that, one of the things that we think you really need to focus on is updating your CRM. And this really means just cleaning up your database. So when we talk about a database, we talk about both your geographical farm, but also your sphere of influence. These are all the people that potentially are going to give you referrals. And we usually recommend to rank them A, B, C, and D, where A's are like the people that are most likely to refer you. D's are people you don't want to work with anymore. You're taking them off your marketing because they're too annoying or whatever. But doing so allows you to, effectively have marketing targeted to the specific groups, and then maybe all your A's you call on a regular basis, or you write, personal note cards because they're very impactful. It's like some of the pop-up cards we do with an area for a message or something. In leveraging this time to really update your brand. When I talked about that sort of that servant leadership style of approach, if you look at your marketing, is it consistent across all of your different channels? Do your postcards, in the case of like this lady here, have a particular brand? She happens to be a super agent with a pop-up card, so on and so forth. But do all of your marketing pieces have that brand? Do they have a tagline or information that's going to just that 1% that's going to get people to think, oh gosh, this person really can relate to me. I can relate to them. I'm willing to make the next step and connect with them for discussing my real estate needs. And if you are using Corefact postcards, I showed you that map feature, that automated market update feature. Now we've seen a 50% increase in response rates over the last 10 weeks. And it's a great time where you can plug in that technology. It doesn't have to overwhelm the cards. It can be a component of your message. You're just listed, you're just sold, a market update, and so on and so forth. And then if you have a current listing or you have one up and coming, or even if you have a sold listing and you want to leverage that sale, promote it with a virtual tour. Virtuance has a great single property website, really easy to set up. Use that, incorporate Corefact postcard technology to help create that digital to physical experience, and expand and leverage your social media to also promote that. And selfishly, I always say continue farming, but it really works. I tell people I've been doing farming for 40 years, and they say, well, how can you do that, Chris? You're only 47 years old. I said, well, yeah, I was free labor as a kid, and passing out those postcards and letters for my dad's farm. And this business of farming has been around for almost 150 years. It's proven, works, and you can take it to the 21st century with all the technologies and tools that I talked about. Okay, all right. So I want to also share one last thing with you, which is something that we provide free to all of our clients. And it's a great resource for you, very easy to find. And I'll tell you about it, and then I'm going to show you it. And we call this Corefact Academy. And what it is, it's a great place to find tips, education, content, and tools that you can use in your real estate business to market. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and go to my browser and go into my Corefact account. Now, if you go to corefact.com, you can sign in, get a free account. It doesn't cost anything to sign up. And once you're in your account, you'll see a tab called Academy. If I'll just click on the home to make it simple. And under the Academy, there are all kinds of different tools and things you can use. So maybe I want to do door knocking, which maybe will come back in a number of months, and you can get tips on door knocking or farming. Maybe I need social media content or a newsletter to email out to all my friends and family. Well, there's a COVID-19 related newsletter, and you can just copy and paste that directly into your email account. Maybe I want some social media images and posts that I can post directly to my wall or Instagram. I can just copy those out and post them into my social media. So the Academy is a remarkable tool that provides all kinds of free content. We're updating this on a weekly basis, so there's always fresh content for you. It's a great resource that you can get. And when you sign up for Corefact and you get on our email list, we'll notify you also of these as they become available, as well as any new products and services. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Michael and Ginny to see if there are any questions. And again, I want to thank you for spending the time with us this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are, to talk about farming with Corefact and how to utilize Virtuance technology and Corefact together.
Thank you, Chris. And that was awesome. Thank you for sharing all that information. A lot of good stuff that just really speaks again to marketing does not need to be complicated or overthought. I think there's a lot of very simple, actionable items that you shared that, are very easy for, any agent of any, size, whether you have a marketing team of one or just you, that you can implement right away. So thank you so much again for that. From here, Ginny, I'll let you take on the Q&A.
Someone asked about do we have a monthly program? So Chris, you want to just show Elite really quickly?
Sure, we do. So there are a number of ways you can work with Corefact. One is you can come to our store and like maybe you wanted to do a map card, or you want to look at our COVID catalog. You can basically create a card yourself and design it, full capabilities to edit that tool. But we also have another program we call Elite, which is a concierge style program. I think in month of May, it costs $198 to set up, one-time fee, whatever. And then we design a more branded experience for you where we'll take your photo, we'll cut it out, we'll build a branded 12-month marketing campaign for you that we can then put on autopilot and send out. And then if things occur, like, we have another type of pandemic, we'll come in and you have a concierge that you can work with to say, okay, well, this month I don't want to send out that, which is no longer appropriate. I want to send out this particular design, and we help you with that strategy. And so that's our Elite program. There are no monthly costs. You have that one setup fee, and then you're just paying for your marketing. So, if you're mailing postcards, you just pay for the postcards that you mail. We have a minimum of 250 postcards a month for that program. Or, like I said, you can just utilize any of our designs online do them yourself. Usually the agents that have less time or they want a more professional type of experience will use our elite program. Agents that really are creative and like to do their own marketing will use our design capabilities that we have built online and do that. We offer everything from postcards that go standard class mail, first class mail, as well as EDDM. So if you want to do an EDDM card as well, you know, you can, let me just click on one of those. Why is that going? I can build a just listed card as an example. I can choose what different kind of back I want. Maybe I'm doing a team with a lender and I can build that particular design out and, you know, plug in all my photos, whatever, or, you know, it's a great way to take those Virtuance photos and plug them right in. I'll just skip past that. And then, you know, I can go on a map and I can choose all the areas that I want to market to. It's really simple. You know, typically what we find is that an agent that is really busy can do this at 2 in the morning, trying to get their marketing done. You can also use it as a tool where you can download that PDF and use it as far as a listing presentation. Go take a photo of the home, build out a postcard, build out, you know, a flyer, and say, hey, you know, this is what I'll do when I market your home. I'll get the professional photography done, but here's an example of what I do and so on and so forth. And so as you can see, you know, you can see each area on the map, and I can plug in, I say I want this particular set of streets and so on and so forth. Plug it in and off we go. Really simple to use, and in a nutshell, hopefully that answers your question, Jenny.
Yep. And what about brochures for listing presentations? Do you do custom designs?
We do. So we have, you know, lots of different designs online, different sizes, shapes, everything from like, you know, 4-pagers that fold to square 8x8s to 11x17 to 22 by 8.5 panoramics. We can custom design those for you as well. Whatever you want, we pretty much handle it. You can also, if you have your own designer, you can upload your photography or your flyer design, and we can just print it for you professionally.
And we do have custom design too. So
yeah,
if you want custom done, we do have a dozen or so designers that you can work with and come up with a design for you, whether it's a listing presentation or a property flyer. And we do create templates. So if you were to have a design for a custom property flyer that you wanted to use over and over, we would put that into your templates. Chris doesn't have it on his screen because he doesn't have any templates, but there would be a button there that said templates, and you could use that every time you had a new property, consistency.
Right.
Someone wants to know the turnaround time for the postcards.
Yeah. So our typical turnarounds. So I'll start with flyers. So if you order a flyer today, if you get it in by noon Pacific time, it ships the same day. So we print and ship the same day on most of our what we call print only products. On direct mail, we'll print today and we deliver to the post office tomorrow. So it's a 2-day turn on direct mail. It's a same day turn on print related products. There are some like signage. Signage typically takes more. If you're ordering A-frames from us, we sell signs too. It takes more than, it's usually a 3-day turn, but on the regular print stuff on paper, it's usually same day or next day.
And one question is, our market has stayed relatively hot, high demand for few homes. Do you have cards about that?
We do, but we, even though, so like example, if you come under postcards, there are different series. I'm trying to find like a hot market series.
Yeah.
You know, market's hot or low inventory type situations kind of thing. These can even be customized where this particular area is variable data, so that if they have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, it will actually change it to what their home is. So it says, I have buyers looking for somebody in this particular thing. We have a bunch of different designs there. I would also consider changing up some of the messaging just to be a little bit more sensitive to what's going on right now. But yeah, we do that. We do have basically, I mean, we have 80,000 different designs online. So you're likely to find something you'll like. And if you don't, you can design your own online too.
Someone wants to know the ROI for the home estimate.
That is hard to figure out actually, but usually what we talk about are, so because ROI is going to really depend on what you do with it. So typical postcard, let's say you're mailing 500 of these, you're going to get a few people who come online. You'll get a few people who opt in for the dripped email program. And then the question is, what do you do with it? We have some agents that are really good at following up. We have others that just drop the leads and nothing ever happens. So ROI is going to be certainly dependent upon on what you do. So here's what I will say. Maybe I'll talk more generically about direct mail. Direct mail is not a get rich quick type of activity. It's something that typically takes 18 months to several years even to start dominating a farm. And what does dominating a farm mean? Well, it typically means getting, you know, upwards of 20% market share of all the listings that occur within that farm. And it maybe tops out typically around 25%. So why can't agents get, you know, 100% market share? Well, usually what happens is in a geographical farm, you know, half the listings typically go to friends and family. So a lot of people know realtors and whatever, or they have past relationships. And so usually we see about 50% of the market gets gobbled up by those. Now you can capture some of those because, you know, your cousin Vinny, a realtor, certainly can't do and sell at the performance you can, but oftentimes we do find that to be the case. So now that other 50% of the market is typically divided amongst, you know, 2 to 3 top producing agents. And then you have, you know, your discount brokers or people that have, you know, funky deals or whatever that come in there and take some of the market share. And so what it usually boils down to are there 2 or 3 top producing agents that typically dominate that portion of every marketing. And usually you build your ROI around that. And then you look at it from how you're building up to that top producing agent strategy. Usually we think it takes about 3 years to do it. And that's typically a lot of listings, but, you know, you start to get success along the way. Maybe the first chunk takes, if you're starting from ground zero, maybe it takes 6 months, maybe it takes 12 months. But then as, you know, the whole concept of farming is as you do it, it eventually starts to build on itself. You know, it typically takes about 5 different impressions before somebody starts to recognize your brand. So you can't send out one postcard and all of a sudden next day the neighbor walks over and says, well, who would you recommend to sell my house? Your name's not going to be on their list. But after like 5 or 6 times, you're going to say, well, gosh, you got to call, you know, Jane Doe Realtor. She does a lot in this neighborhood. And that's where like a program like Elite actually has some value because, you know, in that program, you actually can work directly with, we call it concierge, that can talk about that particular farm, the strategy, what's the turnover rate. Oftentimes we find that, you know, if it's a market or a farm that is ton of competition, you know, sometimes you can find an adjacent farm that seems less interesting, right? Instead of the $1 million homes that are, you know, a bunch of $500,000 condos, well, what you'll find is that the turnover rate on those condos may be double. Maybe they turn every, you know, 3 to 4 years instead of every 7 to 10. And not only that, there's far less competition because people are you know, most of your competition is going after the high end. And we find that sometimes, you know, looking at the strategy of where you're going can play a big part in terms of your ROI. And there's certainly no shame in going after those condos. They're oftentimes, you know, easier to turn over. The sellers often have, you know, fewer demands. You sometimes got to work with, you know, HOA type stuff, but Nevertheless, I look at each opportunity, each different area and strategy, and kind of find something that's going to work for me, and then play that out, come up with a marketing plan that says, okay, here's where I want to be in a year, here's where I want to be in 18 months, 2 years, 3 years. And then if you think about that and you think about your branding, as you carry it out throughout your career, can I sell this farm? How do I build a business that goes beyond me? Or maybe I can give that to my son, my daughter, who can carry that business forward. And a lot of these subtle little things, play into your overall marketing strategy. So in a long-winded way, that's how I would address that question, Jenny.
Okay, someone wants to know where we get the data for the home estimate and market update cards, and how accurate is it?
Yeah, so it's going to depend. There are 13 non-disclosure states that we have other solutions for. So there are a number of ways we get the data. One is primarily we get it from public records. We have a national data feed that's updated monthly. Some agents actually, we have a facility that you can actually use your own comparables if you don't want to use ours. And you have ways of fine tuning your farm. So like for instance, on the home estimate, you can set floors, you can set ceilings, you can tell it how many months you want to go back. Maybe I don't want to go any further back than 6 months for my comparables. I want to pad the farm by an extra X% because it's a super low inventory, and most people, and we're perceiving that the values are actually up here. So there are a lot of different capabilities you can do to adjust that, but the data primarily comes from public records.
A couple of questions about Elite, but I really encourage people to reach out to elite@corefact.com if you're interested, because we're kind of giving it short shrift here by just showing you the website. But you can also go to the website and there's a Calendly link. You can just make an appointment, but they'll show you all of the Elite program and the capabilities they have and all of the billboards and things that you have to choose from. So I just encourage you to reach out to elite@corefact.com or go on and schedule a Calendly meeting. Someone is asking about minimums, and that was Andrea, and I told her that usually the minimums on her postcards are around 50, right, Chris? So she said she had a sphere of 150 and wondered if she could just send out postcards to her sphere. And absolutely, you can. And I think with the home estimate, it doesn't matter if they're a contiguous farm or if they're located all across the country. The home estimate will work for them because we take it from their address.
Yeah, and on flyers, I think we have a minimum of 25. The Elite program has a minimum of 250 just because it's there's a human component where we are actually working with you on your farming strategy and everything. So that's why we have a higher minimum there. But if you're building something like a marketing trends or whatever, you can do this and just have 25 postcards go out. Now, just to say that though, generally we don't think it makes sense to send out 25. When we talk about like the ROI and everything else, there is statistically, you got to look at a farm and the turnover rate. So let's say you have a 3% turnover rate and you have 100 homes. That's 3 homes turning over in that farm. Maybe a year, maybe you have a couple more. So you want to have a farm that's going to yield enough, listings out of it. And then, going even further than that, when you have the listing, how do you really leverage that listing to get your next listing? Oftentimes the open house was a great way to meet neighbors, which is everything from how you position your signs, what you do with your signage. Everything is a funnel to drive those leads back into your CRM and be able to, maximize every single opportunity you get.
Okay, well, it's 11 o'clock and we want to be aware of the time, and we'll let Chris wrap it up.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for spending the time this this morning and afternoon to take a look at what Corefact has to offer and how we partner with Virtuance. Michael, I really want to thank you for letting Ginny and I share this time with your audience. And if anybody has any questions, you can always just email me at chris@corefact.com or our customer service team at cs@corefact.com.
Yes, thank you again, Jenny and Chris. That was awesome, and I hope everyone got a lot of good information and takeaways from this webinar. So thank you all for attending, and yeah, have a great rest of your day.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.